starts now.
Fall in love with the problem, savor the problem, otherwise you will never know it or understand it. And without that knowledge, you will never build a sustainable solution. This logic can apply anywhere, and it should be universally applied in politics, the place where passion can sometimes overwhelm logical strategy. The forthcoming U.S. presidential election, now a choice between Donald Trump for the Republicans and Joe Biden for the Democrats, may be watched by more people worldwide than any U.S. election before. There are many reasons for heightening interest, but Mr. Trump is arguably the ratings draw in capturing the world's eyes and ears. So let's consider things, moving into the formal electoral cycle from a challenger's perspective. The problem with Trump is not Trump in himself, but the issues that his supporters rally towards, the motivators. The Democrats during this electoral cycle seem to have grasped this axiom. They have embraced the problem and have crafted an electoral choice that speaks to it rather than finding a solution. Somewhat confusing, I know, so let's step back a minute. There's a massive difference among political supporters, the politically engaged, and active voter turnout. Someone might say he supports Trump, but then doesn't turn out to vote. That's a supporter. You might find someone who is active and engaged, say, as a volunteer on the phones or canvassing at the doors. That someone could be anyone, a tentative or potential supporter, who is curious and wants experience, or someone who doesn't have citizenship to vote but can still take an active role in a campaign. Both the supporters and the engaged are critical to any election campaign. But Election Day is what the campaign is all about. And that's where the tally of voter turnout makes or breaks a campaign and a candidate. Who are the people who bothered to leave the house, stand in line, and cast a ballot? And why did they bother to do that? Those questions are fundamental but rarely asked. The Democrats seem to have asked those questions. What motivates a Trump supporter? What compels that person to physically get out of the chair, walk, or drive to the polling station, stand in line, sometimes for hours, and cast a ballot? What motivates Trump supporters is the problem that needed to be savored in order to begin understanding a path towards a possible solution. And the answer, many say, is anger. Those supporters are pissed off about a lot of things, but it takes something to really piss them off to move them from the supporter category to the active voter turnout category. It appears that Hillary Clinton was a key factor in helping do that in 2016. A voter base reacted to Trump, supporting his approach, his words, his ideas, and that carried over to continuing to see a face that personified that anger, Ms. Clinton's, thus providing ample motivation to turn out on Election Day. Over the past couple of years, political analysts from many countries, including myself, have made the cautionary note that echoes the guidance in this podcast episode, and argued that the Democrats would commit political suicide if they chose a frontrunner who was flamboyant, openly charismatic, magnetic. Trump supporters, many argue, are already angry, and someone opposing their anger with panache and charisma would only motivate them more to turn out on Election Day and possibly give Trump a second term. A ho-hum candidate, middle of the road, non-offensive, like Joe Biden, good old Joe, wouldn't put a spark under the behinds of Trump supporters, wouldn't motivate to vote against. But that's part of the problem. Good old Joe might not even motivate Democratic supporters on Election Day, the only day that makes or breaks. So a masterfully crafted choice of the first female and first non-white vice presidential candidate should get a lot of Democratic supporters out of their houses and into the polling stations. The risk, and there always is one in every solution, is that Harris might incite the anger that propels Trump supporters. But the planners have executed this option well, a beautiful balance that numerically should put the total ticket above and beyond any possible scenarios of Trump's voter turnout. non-offensive, old, and middle of the road, balanced with youthfulness, charisma, and inclusion. The Democrats clearly seem to have savored their problem, fallen in love with their problem, and only then did they begin crafting a possible solution. Will the Republicans be able to do the same to the problem they now confront, personified in the Biden-Harris ticket? November 3rd is getting closer by the minute, and at this point in the electoral cycle, rule nothing out. Visit stephenchristiansen.ca for more episodes. The BBB podcast is available on all streaming platforms including Anchor, Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, and Google. I'm Stephen Christiansen. Thanks for listening.
A production of Stephen Christiansen. Podcast complete.